Hey you, and welcome to lesson number 5. In this lesson, we will cover future tenses. We will talk about the different types of future tenses and what is each type for. We will also talk about phrasal verbs, idiomatic phrasal verbs, and literal phrasal verbs. We will talk about certainty and how to express doubts. And finally, you will take a few idioms and let's get to it. Hello, and welcome to lesson 5. Today we will talk about the future. There are 4 ways to talk about the future in English. We can use a present simple to talk about the future. We can use the future simple, that means will, or we can use going to, or we can use the future progressive, which is be plus verb plus ing. Okay, let's take a look at the first one. Okay, first one is the present simple. How do we use the present simple to talk about the future? We use the present simple to talk about scheduled future events. Like, we have a lesson next Monday. We have a lesson next Monday. See, it's something scheduled. The train arrives at 6:30 in the morning. The holidays start next week. It's my birthday tomorrow. So anything that is scheduled or it's going to happen according to a calendar or a timetable, we use the present simple to talk about it. So that is the first one, using the future with the present simple. Second one, using the present continuous to talk about the future. When we use the present continuous, we use it to talk about confirmed future plans or arrangements. Like, for example, I'm playing football tomorrow. They are coming to see us tomorrow. We are having a party at Christmas. So, arrangements. Now, the third use is the future simple with will. We use will for something. Okay, first thing, we use it to express something we believe in. Okay, like, for example, it'll be a nice day tomorrow. I think Argentina will win the World Cup. I'm sure you will enjoy the film. So something you believe to be true, or you think something will, you believe that it will happen in the future. We use going to. Okay, before we go to going to, let's talk about will for a second. Okay, also will, we use it for something for the future that is not planned. Okay, like, for example, I'll go to Europe in the future. I'll go to Europe in the future. It means it's my intention. I want to, but I don't have a plan yet. Okay, I haven't arranged it. I didn't buy the tickets or made the bookings. So it's just an intention for the future, or for something that you just decided right now, and you haven't planned or thought about it previously, and you just are deciding it right this second. Like, for example, if you see somebody carrying heavy bags and trying to open the door at the same time, and you're like, here, let me help you, or here, I'll get that for you, or here, I'll open the door for you. Okay, it means you can just use will because you just decided right now to do something, and it wasn't according to a plan or an arrangement. Spontaneous action. Spontaneous means to do something without thinking before, It's called spontaneous. Okay, now number 4 is going to for the future. Here is for plans, future plans, something you thought about, you plan to do in the future. I'm going to drive to work today. They are going to move to Manchester. We also use it to make predictions based on evidence. We use going to make a prediction, but it's based on evidence, not just a prediction when you say, if you make a prediction without evidence, you use will. Like, I hope it'll be a nice year. I hope it will be a nice year. Okay, this is your hope. Okay, there is no evidence. But if you say, ooh, look at this cloud, it's going to rain. Now you are talking about going to in the future about a prediction, but your prediction is based on evidence, which is the black cloud that you see in the sky. So you see a black cloud and you can make a prediction based on what you see. Okay, let's take a look at some examples here. Be careful, you are going to fall. Okay, if you see somebody that you think might fall by the way they're walking or by where they're walking or what they are walking into, you make a prediction based on the way that you think it will play out, and you say, hey, be careful, you're going to fall. Or, look at those black clouds. I think it's going to rain. So again, prediction. Now let's take a look at will you and won't you. Will you or won't you? Will in the negative is will not. Will not is they're both contracted as won't. Won't. Like so. It is a modal auxiliary verb. This means that there is no S on the third person. Okay, for all modals, not only will, for all modals. Okay, what are modals? Just a quick reminder. You have can, could, shall, should, will, would. Those are all modals. May, might. Modals, we are always followed by the bare infinitive or the zero infinitive, as some call it. That means the very base form of the verb without any additions. The base form of the verbs, that means there is no S, there is no ing, there is no ed, nothing, just the base form of the verb. Always, modals, the base form of the verb follows a model. Now, since it applies to will, being a model, it also applies to won't, which is the negative of will. So let's take a look at some example. I will leave later, leave. You will leave later. He will leave later. She will leave later. No S with he or she. We will leave later. They will leave later. So will, okay, so we have will is, it's often abbreviated by adding apostrophe LL. So instead of saying I will, we say I'll, or she'll, or he'll, and so on. Okay, I'll leave later, he'll leave later. You will leave later, will you? Okay, to make a question, we reverse the format. So we start with the auxiliary followed by the subject. So instead of he will, subject auxiliary, it becomes will he, auxiliary subject. Again, this is an auxiliary question. That means it can only be a yes and no question. If we add the WH question, it will go before the auxiliary. So you will leave later. Will you leave later? Yes, I will, or no, I won't. It became a yes or no question. Yes, no questions in the future simple. Will plus a subject plus the base form of the verb plus the rest of the text if you have any. Like, will they burn the CD for you? Won't the girls be late to the party? WH question, as we said, we just put the WH question before the auxiliary. So the order will be question word, auxiliary, in this case it will be will, plus the subject, plus the verb. So what will I tell him tonight? Or why, oh, this is not the highlight. 1 second, let me just fix this. Okay, what will she tell him? Why won't, again, why won't you, they, me, not me, I, because it's subject. Why won't I finish the project? So again, same order. If we remove the question word, we will still have the auxiliary subject verb. Won't you finish? Will you come? Will he play? All right, yes or no question. B going to, okay, so now we're talking about the future question form in the going to format. So if it's, I am going to go to Spain, for example, it will be, am I going to go to Spain? Okay, so it will start with the auxiliary. In this case, will be verb to be, because going to auxiliary is verb to be always. So it will be am, is, are, or in the negative, isn't, aren't. So am I going to eat? Is he going to eat? Are they going to eat? And so on. If we have a WH question, that would be before the auxiliary, as always. So why am I going to watch the news? Or why isn't she playing football? Or why aren't they cooking at home? Okay? So same thing. You saw the question word, auxiliary, subject, and verb. More example of the future tense. Let's just read a couple of these examples, and you can review this later on your own. She'll write the email after lunch. Don't lift that, you'll hurt yourself. Again, here, as you see, it's a prediction. You dropped your purse, I'll get it. Spontaneous reaction without plan. I'll see you tomorrow. You'll get the answer by post. Now, negative, will be added to not, and then they will combine together and make the new word, or the contracted word, won't, abbreviated word. Alice won't help us decorate the party, for the party. Alice won't help us decorate for the party. I won't see you tomorrow. You won't do that again. Or in case of the going to, we can say, I'm not going to make dinner, or we're not going out to a restaurant. Oh, in case of the present simple, they didn't give us example, but for example, you can say, the train won't come on time. So if you say the train arrives at 6, but you want to make it into a negative, we will use won't. So you'll be, the train won't arrive at 6. All right, now let's take a look about something different. This is called a literal, phrasal, and idiomatic phrasal verbs. What is the meaning? First of all, we need to understand what is the meaning of literal and what's the meaning of idiomatic. Literal, it means it actually is the same as it sounds. While idiomatic is something more hypothetical. Okay, now let's take a look. Literal phrasal verb. Some of the most common phrasal verbs have an obvious meaning. So if it's a literal, it means it is what it sounds like. Okay? For example, move back. Move back. I wanted to move back home. It took away all hope for the future. It took away all hope for the future. She grew up in a small village. Okay, so those are all literal meanings. So grew up, it means become bigger. She grew up in this village. Or it took away, it means removed. If you take away something, it means you remove it. It actually means the literal meaning of the verb. I want to move back. It means to go back to where I was before. Move back. Now let's take a look at idiomatic phrasal verb. Now idiomatic phrasal verbs can be confusing to most students because they don't mean what they sound. you hear something and you understand something completely different. You learn those by practice and by, watching my videos. So let's take a look. Gave up. What's the meaning of gave up in this sentence? I gave up my job because I was bored. Gave up. So gave is to give and then up. So gave up. That's the literal meaning. If you give up, it doesn't make sense because it's not supposed to. It's idiomatic. It's not supposed to make sense literally. It's idiomatic. So gave up, it means to stop or quit. Like, for example, I gave up my job. It means I stopped my job or quit my job or I left my job. Gave up. Or I gave up smoking. I stopped smoking or I quit smoking. She picked up English. Okay, what does that mean? She picked up English. Like English was on the floor and she picked it up and put it on the table? No, that's not what it means. That's the literal meaning, but it doesn't make sense because it's not supposed to. It means learn something new. If you pick up something, it means to learn something. So she picked up English from her children. It means to learn it bit by bit or learn it slowly. The plane took off late. If the plane takes off, it means to leave the ground. The plane took off late, it means to leave the ground. If I say take off your shoes, that means to remove your shoes, to take off. Expressing doubts. Were you ever in a situation that you were not sure about the outcome and you were not confident about something and you wanted to express yourself to let people know how sure or unsure you are, but you weren't sure how to go about that? So let's learn this now. If you are sure about something, you say absolutely, okay? Yeah, I am absolutely sure. I am absolutely sure. It means 100%. I'm very confident in something. If you say I'm quite sure, it means, yes, I'm confident, a high percentage, but not 100%. I'm quite sure he will. Now, if I say, I'm certain he will, I'm certain he will, it means more likely he will than won't, okay? If you say, I'm positive he will, that means, I feel good about this. It will happen, okay? Definitely, certainly, of course. These are all to say that, you're confident about something. You think it will happen. But absolutely sure is like 100%. Quite sure or quite certain or quite positive are like not as strong as absolutely sure, but right up there, like maybe like 80%. Okay, now, if you want to say no, you say, no, I'm absolutely sure he won't. Again, 100%, he won't. I am quite sure he won't. It's like 80%. I'm quite sure he won't. I give it 80%. I'm certain or I'm positive. It's more like 70%, but not 100%. But I'm still, I think it will happen or I think it won't happen. So I'm still quite positive about the possibility of something not happening. Now, definitely not, certainly not, of course not. Now let's take a look at when you're not sure whether something or someone will or won't happen. Something or someone will or won't happen. Use the following expressions. Well, it's possible. Well, it's possible, I suppose, but I wouldn't like to say for certain. You can also say, it's impossible, I suppose, but I'm not sure. It might be, I suppose, but I have my doubts. You can also say, well, it might not be, I suppose, but it's highly unlikely. So you can use any of those expressions with but, with I suppose, and but, and then you can use any of those phrases to make a complete sentence, expressing uncertainty or expressing your doubt. So you can say, well, it's possible, I suppose, but I'm not sure it'll happen. Or you can say, well, it might be, I suppose, but I have my doubts. It means, I'm not like 100% saying that he will fail, but I think I'm more inclined towards believing that he's not going to make it, because I have doubt. Also, you can use these expressions like you never know. Of course, no one knows for certain, or no one can know for certain. I can tell you for sure. I can't tell you for sure, okay? These are all to show you are uncertain about something. Okay, now certainty a degree, in percentage, in numbers. Let's take a look. Of course he will, that's 100%. He might do 75. Maybe 50. I doubt it. That's 75% negative. It means I'm 75% sure that it will not happen. No chance. I'm 100% sure it will not happen. I think so. 70% it will happen. I'm not sure. Again, 50% negative, 50% positive. I don't think so. 70% negative. 70%, 75% it will not happen. Definitely not. 100% negative. 3 definitely. 100%. Okay, the 3 here is just doesn't make any sense. So there's no 3 here. Okay, just definitely. 100% is definitely. All right. Perhaps 70%. Perhaps 70%. 75%. It will happen. 25% it won't happen. They might do 50-50. Anything's possible, 50-50. Not a chance, 100% not gonna happen. Okay, so now we will talk about some idioms. First idiom today is keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Now what does that mean? It means to keep an eye on your enemies. It means to not neglect or not, forget about your enemies and, you keep watch. Be vigilant. What's vigilant? Vigilant, it means alert. You don't snooze and forget. You be vigilant. It means you be alert and always paying attention. Be vigilant. To be vigilant about the action taken by your enemies. Well, first of all, enemies, just for those of you who don't know what an enemy is someone you don't like, is your nemesis, is someone you don't like and they don't like you, okay? It's not a good idea to bother your enemies. Be friendly with them, but stay alert. Bottom line is, this idiom means if you keep your friends close but your enemy closer, it means you always keep watching your enemies. Do not neglect. Do not snooze. Be vigilant. Be alert. And keep your enemies close to you, so if they intend to do you harm, you would be able to stop that before it happens. Okay, so let's take a look at some examples. As a politician, you must keep your friends close and your enemies closer. The competition in the business world today is such that it's best to keep your friends close and your enemies closer. She has asked you to keep your friends close and your enemies closer because she has some reason to suspect foul play. She has not given me any information. Foul play means if something not fair is going to go on, or something not according to the rules, or something that was not supposed to happen. That's called foul play. Like, punching under the belt in a boxing match, something that requires a penalty. I have in my life always kept my friends close and my enemies closer. To keep your friends close and your enemies closer is just good sense in competitive sports. You never know what is going behind your back. Okay, next idiom today is charity begins at home. Charity begins at home. What does that mean? It means family comes first. You should help your family before helping others. A person's first duty is for the needs of their own family and friends. So, the closest people to you are your family and your friends. They come first. So this means charity begins at home. If you for example, if you have a business, you want to hire somebody, first you look at your relatives who needs a job and who you can count on, and then you look at your friends, and then you put on advertisement for others. Okay, let's take a look at some examples. One second, let me just select the right tool here. She spends the little money that she earns on social work and neglects her own family, forgetting that charity begins at home. What does that mean? It means she spends the little money she earns on social work, and she is neglecting the fact that she should help her family first before she should help others. If your family are in need and you want to help somebody, go help your family first before you help other people. It just makes sense. Second example. She believes that charity begins at home, therefore she extensively supports her community, because she believes that if you do something good, you should do it close to home. That's why she supports her community before she goes and supports other countries. Charity begins at home for my grandpa. He helps needy people when he comes across. Charity begins at home and extends to the adjacent neighborhoods and communities. Okay, it means first help your home, your neighborhood, and then the neighborhoods that are adjacent to your neighborhood. Adjacent, it means like next to. All right, last example. Charity begins at home, but should not end there. Okay, that is a good example. Charity begins at home, but it should not end there. It means if you help your family and your friends, then you can help others too, Or if your family and friends don't need help, then you should extend your hand to others. All right, this will wrap it up for today's lesson. I hope you guys don't skip the quiz, and I'll see you next class. Have a good one.